Hey guys, welcome to my first video on my interview with Morenike Ayo Vaughan. Morenike is the program officer advancing health equity at the Commonwealth Fund, and she's also served as a senior manager at Avalier Health. She focuses on helping healthcare clients, helping them get access to optimal care. If you can, definitely watch the whole video as there's a lot of helpful information in there, but if you're in a rush, definitely check out 1210. But 1210 in the interview, so out of the whole video you're watching right now, it would be this point of the whole video and this point in when the interview starts. So yeah, definitely check that out. It's very important. She talks about and how to succeed as an intern doing even like mundane things, even like bringing coffee, how to go from that to becoming someone that people in the lab really trust and trust to do kind of like more important things. So yeah, let's get right into the video. Hi guys, so I'm here with Morenike Ayo Vaughan, and I'm going to start with a brief introduction. So she's a program officer at for advancing health equity at the Commonwealth Fund. She served as a senior manager at Avalier Health. She's been serving healthcare clients seeking the advancement of health equity and improvement in patient access to optimal care. So hi, is there
Hi,
anything
Issa.
else you'd want to add to that introduction?
Oh, that was perfect. Thank you, Issa. I'm just happy to be here.
Perfect. So, I kind of want to start with some basic questions, if that's okay. So, do you want to tell me a little bit maybe about your journey, maybe what got you interested in health equity, a general description?
Absolutely. So, I guess I'll start with the typical answer of in undergrad, I studied public health. That was by accident. I was actually originally a biochemistry major, and I was interested in
Mm.
pre-pharmacy and going to pharmacy school. And I ran into a pharmacist who was like, "You are not a good fit for pharmacy school. I don't see you working in a lab. You are so not a biochem major." So when my counselor told me I had to take organic chemistry 3, I was like, nope, this is not for me. But I knew I wanted to be in healthcare, and I knew that I was still interested in health, and I learned about public health. And the rest is history. A large part about public health is achieving health equity, because part of public health is ensuring that the public has access to care, and the public is well protected from diseases. And so a lot of public health principles are aligned with equity-centered principles. So studying public health opened the door for me to be working within health equity.
Perfect. And would you say that you started in health equity more as like a practical thing and maybe like the passion for it came later, or like how would you say that kind of like happened?
I would say I it just was part of my job.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the passion
Yeah.
is more intense now because I'm older and I have more experience in the field. So I
Mm.
feel I'm more I'm more in control as to the projects that I engage. But when I was at Avalier Health, and even now at the Commonwealth Fund, a lot of my job just includes consideration of how others are affected by healthcare
Mm-hmm.
access. So it was more a practical path because, like I said, it's part of a public health curriculum, and so it's just part of working in the field.
Of course. I think that's important though, because like you can say that you're really like passionate about something, but if you just have that passion and you don't think about the practicality, then you can go down that certain path and maybe you don't have as much success as if you started with something maybe more practical for what your strengths are in or what you're majoring in. And then maybe like you can incorporate some of your passion into what you're doing. So I think that's really,
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, like I said, I was a biochemistry major before because I thought it was super practical. I was like, biochemist, pharmacist, duh. And after speaking to people, I was thinking I'm not a good fit for that, but I can still find a way to be involved in healthcare. And so I ended up, so you're right, I still didn't like chase passion per se, but I found a better fit that allows me develop passion, but while still allowing me to be very practical.
perfect. So, you currently serve as a program officer advancing health equity at the Commonwealth Fund. Could you please talk a little more about like what that work entails, what you do maybe on a day-to-day basis?
Sure. So it's a great job. It's not, it's not necessarily entry level. It's a job that requires prior experience. But essentially, what I do is I develop and execute strategy for our program. So let me speak in layman's terms. So typically with foundations, philanthropies, they have a mission, they have an overall mission. Ours is to ensure the development of a high performing health system. So that is the mission of the Commonwealth Fund. Our program's specific mission is to eliminate inequities within healthcare. So that is our goal as our program. So we are a program because there are funds set aside to achieve that goal. So a big part of my job as a program officer is I have to figure out how best we allocate those funds and we spend those funds to achieve our goal. And so my job on there's no day to day that's the same, but the overall essence of my job is I'm usually collaborating or meeting with new stakeholders to learn about their projects and to see whether or not their goals align with our goal. And when they do align, so for example, if there's someone that's looking to, for example, do a research project that's highlighting inequities in accessing care in a region that aligns with our goals to eliminate inequity. So I'll fund it. So my day to day for that task would look like talking to the researcher, aligning on what deliverables look like, talking through what are the policy opportunities, meaning when we get the results of this research, who are the policymakers that need to know about this work. And then when they are done when they do the research and they publish, part of my job is thinking through who needs to get this document, who needs to read this, and how do we make sure that it leads to more policy changes. So that's a bit of my day, but the day-to-day changes. I mean, today I was reading a paper, tomorrow I'll be writing a paper, the day after I'll probably be reading a proposal. So it varies.
Wow, thank you.
Absolutely.
So, in terms of like kind of talking about the health equity landscape, how would you say that's maybe like changed from, let's say, like 20 years ago to now, and maybe kind of connecting that to like diversity in the sciences? Like, how would you say that's like changed, and what advice would you give maybe to like people who, or like, how would you describe the health equity landscape and just diversity in the sciences in general today versus like 20 years ago?
I think it's fluctuated. I think
Mm-hmm.
20 years ago, we learned there aren't, especially when we look at providers, there isn't a lot of diversity with providers, especially when we look at medical doctors. It's overwhelmingly white, it's overwhelmingly
Mm-hmm.
male. So it's gone up and it's gone down. Currently, the research does show the numbers have not really shifted much. It's still the healthcare space is still largely not diverse enough, especially with medical doctors and the likes. It's not as diverse as it needs to be. However, in terms of the health equity landscape, I would say due to the pandemic, the COVID inequities and social justice movements from 2020, there is increased attention in the landscape. It's now more normal to highlight health equity as an important part of health care discussions. Previously, health equity was not necessarily centered, and now it is. So that's where we are today. Is we're seeing more receptivity to, or rather, yeah, more reception of people paying more attention to needing to achieve health equity as part of a healthcare mission, a healthcare organization's mission.
I see. Thank you. So, kind of switching gears a little bit to back to high school and kind of like college. So, I wanted to ask, what did you have any specific like actions, or maybe not even actions, just like habits you had in high school or college or starting in your professional life to succeed academically or professionally?
Ooh, that's a really good question. I mean, there's the typical like studying. I'm a morning riser, so I used to do a lot of my studying like 5 a.m. to 7 a.m.
Wow.
I know
Hmm.
it's super early, but I'm a big believer. I'm a big believer in getting up early because especially these days with social media, there's a lot of activity that goes on your phone once you get up. But when you wake up 5 a.m., no one's texting you, there are no notifications. So you can really, and then there's just no one to text. So you can like
Right.
not be distracted. So I'm really, really big on waking up early. And then the second thing is in college, I had a really strong regimen, meaning like I made
Mm.
myself a schedule. One thing about college is you do get a lot of free time in between classes to do whatever you want. And
Mm-hmm.
oftentimes that can get scary because you may
Mm-hmm.
not focus on your goals. And then what happens is
Yeah.
during finals, everyone's freaking out. So I had a pretty strict, not strict, but I had a routine. So I had a workout
Uh,
routine. So I would wake up really early. I would study and do my reading for the day. Then I would work out. Then I would meal prep. And then I had like, I budgeted like my hangout time. Like I knew in between classes, I want to hang out at the cafeteria with my crew. And then
mm-hmm.
I would put in like 1 more hour of study time. And then one very important thing that you can learn in high school, you can learn as a freshman in college is the importance of networking. So how did I find out that I'm not going to be good at pharmacy? Pharmacy is I went to Rite Aid and I happened to talk to the pharmacist and he was nice. And I was like, oh my God, I think you want to be a pharmacist. And he was like, no, you would suck. And I was like, why'd you say that? It was like, I stay
Mm-hmm.
behind the window and I count pills all day. I definitely don't see you doing that. And he was a stranger and he was the first person to open my eyes. And then from then on, I would talk to anyone who was a little bit older than me. I would
Wow.
just say, hey, I'm a freshman and I'm thinking about this. And then people, that's how I found out about public health. I kept talking to people about it. And one day, one girl was like, I'm doing public health. You should check it out. And I talked to my
Mm-hmm.
counselor. So I would say having a routine and networking super early and telling everyone what you want to do. Everyone loves students, so everyone loves to give advice and it's free. As a student, when you get older, no one wants to give you advice because they're like, who's this adult? But when when you're in college, when you're, straight out of high school, everyone wants to give you advice. So just tell everyone what your goals are very early and then um you get help without you even realizing.
Perfect. So kind of like as you were saying networking is very important, like mentorship, like probably
Yes.
if you hadn't talked to that like pharmacist, you might have gone on with the like biochemistry, something you wouldn't have really
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. So, yeah, like as you were saying, you would recommend just like networking naturally, maybe through like emails and classes versus because I know that there could be like maybe other ways for like maybe like programs, initiatives, but would you say that maybe that's going too far? Maybe like college students, high school students can just
I would say organically. In college
yeah.
you get an advisor. That's what they're called. You get an
Ah.
advisor who advises you on what classes to take. I would use them, and then
Mm.
the thing is you want to be authentic because people use the word networking, but networking just really means making new friends. But new productive like friends that can help you get to certain things. So sometimes they're your peers. Like sometimes some of your friends know about internships you don't know about. So
Mm-hmm.
it's organic. Like anytime you connect with someone,
Mm.
just bring it up. Like if you have a mission, like, oh my gosh, I have no idea what I want to major in. Someone might share with you, oh, this is how I made the decision. Anywhere you are, like it could be at the coffee shop, it could be anywhere, but whenever you connect with anyone on a human level, don't be afraid to share what some of your aspirations are.
Right. Thank you so much. So kind of like related to that, but kind of going into field work. So like initially like getting into field work and internships, maybe as a high school student or a college student, how important would you say that is? And could you tell us a little about your experience getting into certain field work and just internships?
Absolutely. It's never too early. It's never too early. And the first thing I'll say is, your first job is not going to be cute. Um, the first semi-real job I got as a freshman, I was handing out flyers for a jewelry store. It was not fun. Like I had to hand out it wasn't just flyers. It was like a sample for the jewelry,
No,
and people would hate it. They would like take the paper and they would just throw it out. But I needed the $8 an
no.
hour. I was like, I need money. And then I was complaining to a new friend on campus one day. I was like, oh my goodness, I hate this job. And one day she was like, oh, Temple University Hospital hires student workers to do random things. And I was like, you know what? It's better than being outside. So I signed up, but like I got the gig. It was just a student worker job. And my job was literally to refile charts. At the time, they would use paper,
Mm,
like paper medical records. My job was to alphabetize it. Like the doctor's secretaries would give you like 200 charts, and you had to alphabetize it and then put it in the chart room. Mundane, right? Like
No,
I'm a
painful.
freshman studying biochemistry. Why am I doing this? But you know what? It paid. It was indoors. And then eventually they were transitioning from paper records to electronic records. But guess what? I was the only one, because part of filing the records was you would get a stack of papers and you had to file them in. Well, when they needed someone to scan pulmonary function tests, sleep apnea results, it turns out that 19-year-old freshman girl that does the chart, she's the only one that actually knows how to do that. So that's how I got exposure into healthcare administration.
Wow.
That's how I learned that's why I learned about the big world of electronic medical records. It's a big deal because it's how doctors get access to your medical record. Like, how else will a doctor know what's going on if he doesn't know what you've had in the past, right? And I didn't realize at the
Mm.
time that this was a really, really big like thing to know how to do. Well, fast forward years later, like now in my job, part of our goal is to we have an objective called enhancing delivery systems, and part of that is electronic medical records.
Wow.
So, I mean, I didn't know it at the time. This was at this point 14 years ago. I was like, I'm just trying to file records and listen to my music. And then it turns out that what I learned years ago set me up to be here. So I say all that to say, I got in the field not even being in the field. But that's what I say, keep talking to people, and you, even if you get a very mundane gig like being a greeter or just being a volunteer reading to seniors, anything that gets you around where you're trying to go. If you're
Mm.
diligent, if you're super good, if people like you, if people are invested in your success, eventually you'll get
Mm.
put in the right spot. But you have to earn your time, and you can't go into it thinking I'm all that, so I'm just entitled to it. Sometimes you have to do the work that you think is beneath you before you end up super
Of
close to what
course.
you deserve.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Like even if you're just like you were saying, like simple as like bringing the coffee or anything like that,
Yes.
just like any mundane task, you're like surrounded by this environment. Maybe like you're absorbing it, people are seeing you and just like
Yes.
doing the
Yes.
job. You're kind of yeah.
Yeah, like the coffee thing may be small. I know a lot of people love to use that as an example of interns, but honestly, it is very impressive. An intern that can remember little details like, oh, I remember you like oat milk and you like 2 pumps of venti. You get more responsibilities. Like, oh, you paid attention to that detail. Okay, I want you to come with me to this networking event. Okay, I thought about you. I want you to
Mm.
go and place with me. I think the main thing I will say is any opportunity to demonstrate competency, any opportunity for you to prove that you are a very smart
Mm.
and driven person, no matter how small it is, it resonates with people. Like when young interns do something that shows like, oh my goodness, she's super smart, they get way more responsibilities, and eventually next thing you know, they're rock stars. It's like, oh, I don't even remember. I mean, I'll give another example. One of my internships out of while I was in grad school, I was an operations intern. I wanted to be a performance intern, but for some reason, I
Mm.
think that they had like too many. But I was like, you know what? I'll take operations. What does an operations intern do? They order lunch every week, and then they make sure the supply closet is. And I was in grad school at the point, so I'm thinking I am 23 years old. But
No.
I did it so well that one day I organized lunch for this new VP, and he really liked it. And I was telling him how like I had a chart of our favorite food places, and I knew what people liked. So one day he was like, "Okay, Morenike, I have this big task. You know, do you think you can handle it?" And I ended up being a performance. I ended up doing such a good job as an intern that when I was leaving, the HR department told me not to put intern on my resume. They were like, just put associate because what you did doesn't even align.
Wow.
They were like, she was like, I don't want them thinking we just give interns important work. Like you did important work, so therefore you were an associate, not just an intern. So again, no matter how simple the task is, make sure you do it really, really well so that they understand
Yes.
that you really want to be there.
Yes, making the most out of every opportunity, then they'll give you more, as you were saying.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes, thank you. That was the first half of my interview with Morenike. The second half will be coming out next week. Any questions, make sure to comment down below. And yeah, make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next week.